Marty.
I have another one of those.
Hey, Marty.
Take a smile at the face.
There you go.
That's a top left in right there. Oh, you're good for one.
What? You're showing
Yeah,
me
we're going
Your parents?
that?
Where are your parents at?
Right here.
Call the meeting to order and start with pledge of allegiance. Invocation by United Church of Christ. Not here? Okay. Roll call, please.
Smith. Charks. Bathke. Barrington. McCardle. Dosher. Goldammer.
Here.
Sabers.
Okay, we have a quorum. Approval of consent agenda items. Items appearing on consent agenda may be removed by council member for discussion at the informal agenda items. Anything you wish to remove or discuss?
You'll give me just a second. I think I had something that I thought maybe I can't get my email. Let me just look real quick. Let me just take it again here and see what it was. Oh, I was just gonna ask about sorry. I was gonna ask what the Omnia contract is that we're getting the playground equipment through, and thought maybe, I don't know if this is all you, Kevin, could talk about the Health Improvement Innovation Grant. I thought those were two things that maybe could be highlighted.
The Health Improvement Innovation Grant is something that Thomas put together with the Rec Center, and it's something annually he works toward those health improvement type of programs. So we commend him for that. He's always so eager to work with those things. Omnia is much like Sourcewell in terms of it's another contract that we're able to work with, and they bid out and they get the best prices with the organization.
Thanks.
Okay.
Move approval of the consent agenda.
Okay, we have a motion.
Second.
Second by
Marty.
Mr. Barrington. Further discussion? Mrs. Beck, did you want to come up and speak?
Sure, thank you. Good evening, Council. Jerry Beck with the Chamber and Development Corporation. I have a couple of introductions to make this evening. Doreen Nelson, do you want to stand up, Doreen? Doreen is our new community concierge, and she can explain it better than me, but I'll do my best in the interest of time. She's working hard to find newcomers to our community and help them integrated to our community. She'll work with new business professionals and their spouses for 2 years after arriving in Mitchell and invite them to 9 events that she's hosting. Currently, she has 12 newcomers plus their spouses, if they have one, and will be hosting dinner at the Chamber of Commerce. I think I'm mixing the margaritas, I'm hoping I can, before the musical Escape to Margaritaville on August 4th. Now, if you know any new business professionals who have just moved to Mitchell, please let Doreen know. We'll get them into our group. She has been working with our largest employers to help them host job candidates by giving tours to these candidates when they come here, sharing information about our schools, healthcare, entertainment, anything they're interested in, and trying to find a position for their trailing spouse. And we added Doreen's part-time position to help recruit and retain workforce and help make our community more welcoming. So thank you to Doreen, glad you're here. Yay, thank you. I'd also like to introduce Alex Heidinger, our new chamber director. Due to Tiffany Batdorf's move to Springfield, Missouri with her husband when he got a new job, that puts them closer to their family. We have a new chamber director. She and Johanna Allen will both take on more responsibilities for the chamber. Johanna will be our lead for marketing and CVB, and as I said, Alex will be the chamber director. We are also seeking a new person to work on workforce and housing in our office. Gigi Tavares moved to Voices for Peace and is actually moving to Sioux Falls, I learned today. We have offered the position to a former resident of Mitchell who wants to return, so wish us luck that we can get this person here. So just want to give you a couple of updates on the people who are across the street from you. A couple of highlights on our quarterly report. Our next Enhanced Mitchell meeting will be in late July, and we are going to be setting up a date for our next Main Street informational meeting. Don Dahl will be hosting us at the Western Building, so if you've been dying to see the inside of that building, hang on, you'll have a chance to see it this fall, probably September or October. We have an upcoming Lunch and Learn on the 20th of July. It's about a program called Get Started Today. It's the governor's new program on apprenticeships. And the whole plan is if someone doesn't necessarily have to go to a higher education program, they could start today as an apprenticeship and think outside the box. They're talking about teachers and all kinds of positions, not just manufacturing. And there's funding available. Again, that's July 20th at lunchtime at the chamber. Update on tourism. I'm making this long, but it's good, right? Tourism year to date through last Monday, July 10th, we were up 4% over last year. We're at about 750,000 right now, or last Monday, and 724,000 last year. Largely to July being a great month, we're about 24% over last year for July. So that is good news. Finally, development. We continue to have our citywide hiring events. We had 7 employers participate last week, Wednesday. So between 1 and 4, they had candidates come and interview and were offered jobs. I only got back from heard back from one employer of the 7 who interviewed 2 people, offered positions, and they started. One was from Parkston, one was from Mitchell, but they both were not employed at the time, so they weren't taken off somebody else's dole. And then we have a new coalition in Mitchell. It's called the Mitchell Area Inclusion Coalition. It meets the first Thursday at 11 o'clock at the chamber. The mission is to foster an inclusive and welcoming community, and they are planning to do a survey on communities' satisfactory boundaries, jobs, anything that we can do to make our community be more inclusive and welcome. And all are welcome to these meetings, so if you are ever interested, just join us. And finally, in development, the bids for the extension of 15th Avenue will go out from SPN soon. And across the street, it's a busy time applying for grants for infrastructure for housing, so it'll be a busy month. And I just want to make sure that you know that you're all invited to the Palace City pre-Sturgis party. I'm sure Doug's not here, but if he were here, he could give you all the details, but we are
Doug's
doing the
over there.
marketing. Where are you, Doug? Gosh, there, right over in the back, sorry, a little bit blind.
He's trying to
Anyway,
hide.
hope you all can join us for that event on August 3rd. Any questions? Comments?
One question. here,
Yes.
If you have a second. I know you were scheduling a trip down to Puerto Rico, and I know that Gigi left. Is there still plans at some point in time
Yep.
of visiting?
Yes, thank you for asking, Jeff. We finally heard from the Puerto Rico official that we were waiting from that they had a turnover in staff and just have not gotten back to us, so yes, we are. I don't have a date, but we are still planning, so thank you. All right, I think yeah?
Are you turning that building on the 15th, into daycare?
I am not, but yes, we have received a purchase agreement for that to be sold for a daycare. Yeah.
Okay. Anything else?
Okay.
Thank
I
you.
think we've got one more speaker, if you have time.
What building is that, Mike? Is that
The
the
old-
MV building?
The old verification.
Oh, nice.
Just go by there every day and I'm like, something's going on.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That'll be helpful.
All right, anybody else wish to talk to council? This isn't public commentary, or are you on the consent agenda? Do you have something on the consent agenda?
He
Okay,
is.
you'll be next. We'll do public
Yeah.
commentary after this is done.
I'll make mine brief. Obviously, David Lambert with Mitchell Area Development Corporation. I do the regional development, 5 communities, 6-county region. In your, obviously, quarterly report, there's a page there that kind of highlights some of the activities of the last quarter. But rather than share that with you in person, I thought I'd bring one of my community members. Actually, I invited 2 of them, but only one's here. So Caleb Fink, who's the president of the Trip Development Corporation, is here to kind of share with you some of the activities that's going on in Trip on the housing and the workforce side.
Good evening. It's been a little while since I've been in front of a board like this, but Caleb Fink, president of the Trip Development Corporation, and we work with David and the Mitchell Area Development through Dakota Heartland with economic development down in Trip. And first and foremost, before I talk about anything else that's on here, I just want to say thank you. I know that the Mitchell City helps with some of the sponsorship for Dakota Heartland and how that all works, and it's a great asset to the communities that are involved in it. We get a lot of resources from these guys to be able to help make all of this work. So just to highlight a few things, in the last probably calendar year, we've opened 3 new businesses on Main Street in Trip. You'll see on your packet there the pictures of 2 of the ribbon cuttings that were just this past spring. We had a business open up a couple years ago, a new vet clinic on Main Street. Building became vacant next to them and has shared a common wall, so they decided to purchase it and thought, well, someday they would fix it up. And well, before too long, they had some interested tenants that contacted and said, hey, we'd be interested in the space. So they moved forward with their development. So they built that, redid that building last year, opened up 2 new businesses. We have both a photography studio, Laura Ann Photography moved in, and right next door to her is Rustic Roots, which is a new hair salon in town. So both are doing very well. A couple months previous to that, we had a new massage therapist open up down further. So that's kind of what's going on in the business development world. We've got some other projects maybe coming in the future, but in the housing world, that's something that the Trip Development Corporation hadn't ever gotten into until just a year or so ago, and with a lot of help from Dave and the crew and getting us some extra insight and input in some of these other programs and things that are out there, we stick-built in 2022 our first development home, and then sold that in January. And so we've got the homeowners have moved in, really loving it, and actually last week at our last board meeting, the board approved purchasing 2 Dakotaplexes and a governor's home. So we're hoping that potentially later this year or hoping into the next couple years, we'll continue to work on developing those, as well as we may stick build some more homes because the demand is certainly there. So working on that, as well as some entrepreneurship development, but those are just a couple of highlights. So if you have any other questions for me, let me know.
Anything for Mr. Fink? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else have anything for consent agenda? Okay. Roll call, please. Not, this isn't public commentary. This is,
Citizen input?
no, not yet. That'll be next.
Okay.
Sabers,
Aye.
Goldammer,
Aye.
Dosher, McCardle, Barrington,
Aye.
Bathke, Charts, Smith.
Aye.
Motion carries. Citizens input. Now you'll be able to talk. If you need to address mayor, member, city council, an item that is not on the agenda, excluding personnel items, come forward to the podium, state your name and your concern. Presentations are limited to 3 minutes. Items will be considered, but no action will be taken. Mr. Hanson.
My name is Jordan Hanson, and I really wanted to speak at the last city council meeting, but we weren't allowed to talk at the emergency vote, so I'm going to talk here. I recently did a presentation about aeration fixing our lake, and the mayor said in the newspaper he got a bid and it was more expensive than current dredging costs. How many of you guys saw that bid? I have the bid here, if you don't pass those around. It's $11 million to fix it over 10 years. We're not locked into that huge number. The first number is only about $4 million to get started. So I'm just wondering, if none of you guys saw it, why was this never ever brought to the city's attention? Well, they presented it in 2021. It sounds like the Friends of Fire Steel saw it, the mayor saw it, some other people had seen it. There's a presentation. This is from his presentation. I have the entire thing. He actually, in the presentation, he has a list of over 20 lakes that he has fixed using this process.
What company is this?
Everblue Lakes, the one you had mentioned in the paper.
John.
So over 20 lakes and another 10 reservoirs. So he told me in this thing it would take 2 to 3 years to see results in this. If we would have implemented this in 2021, we'd already have a clean lake. We wouldn't have to be talking about this anymore. In fact, the startup cost was about $3 million, which is what we paid Bar and FIRA to do the studies. So we could also get into this for absolutely no debt at all. The ongoing cost was only $500,000 a year, so less than half of what the ongoing cost of the dredging project would be, not counting the alum. So I'm just wondering how many times anybody in the public or the city council has ever seen the city take the highest bid possible. I think this is the best route. I've done hundreds of hours of research on this, like a crazy person, but I've talked to 3 biologists, tons of experts, multiple companies, and I've gotten several bids, including this one that our city's seen. So I just hope someday someone takes this into consideration before we spend $50 million on something we can do for 20% of the cost. But I was just wondering if you guys had seen that at all, any of you. Because it's been out for 2 years.
This is your commentary. You go for it.
Well, I'm just wondering if you guys have any answers for me.
It's not for them to answer.
I know, but you're the leader, so I was expecting maybe someone.
Well, you're getting your chance to speak, so.
Well, I got 20 more seconds, so I'll give you guys an
20 seconds
opportunity to just let me know if you'll consider this option. Give the guy a call. I got his number. You guys all have my email. I emailed you. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, anybody else wish to address council?
Hi, my name is Stuart Hanson. I just wanted to start off by saying, wow, that was quite a council meeting last time. I guess the mayor really showed his true colors at that meeting, getting into a heated argument with Council President Kevin McCardle. It sure didn't look very professional. It was quite embarrassing, really. And thank you, Mr. McCardle, for standing your ground and not letting the mayor bully you during that conversation. Then there's the vote by the previous council members whether to apply for a $25 million loan to do the dredging on Lake Mitchell. The vote was 4-4, and it needed to be 6-3 in favor of applying for the loan, so the measure failed. I guess some didn't like the way the vote went, so they decided to wait until the 2 new council members were sworn in at the following meeting, and then had a new vote to put applying for the $25 million loan to a public vote. I'm wondering if some are sore losers. What if that vote didn't go the way they wanted? Would they have found another way to put it to another vote? And why didn't the people in the audience get to speak to the agenda item being voted on to put applying for the loan to a public vote like they typically do? Seems a little fishy to me. And who wrote up the agenda item that day for applying for the loan by putting it to a public vote? There was nothing mentioned about the lake or applying for the loan to a public vote. Why aren't you keeping the public better informed, considering all the people concerned about cleaning up the lake, whether for or against the loan? Seems a little fishy to me. Is this how some in the city operate, being secretive? If the people vote not to apply for the $25 million loan, then what? And how about the veto on the golf course deal? To me, it looked like someone was mad at the council members that voted no on applying for the dredging loan, so they took it out on the golf course board. And the council did vote 7-1 to approve their request for additional funding. Again, what good is a city council if someone can just figure out a way to have a revote or just veto something when they don't get their way? Like Steve Rice said at the last council meeting, his last council meeting, he said, you need to work with all your constituents and not just do what you want to do. And then I noticed in the paper on the 4th of July, people were all over on the lake skiing, jet skiing, swimming, kayaking. And then on the 5th of July, there was a notice put in the paper that said, be careful because there's algae in the lake. So what happened in that one day where everybody was using the lake and it must have been fairly clean, and then all of a sudden the next day, there was a notice in the paper. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Randy Whitstruck. I don't know if I'm in the right spot, but I bought a building at 1201 South Raleigh Street. It's the old tire building. It's been there for 98 years. And I've been fixing up the inside. Later on, I want to make an antique motorcycle museum out of it. And I've been fixing up the inside. I just poured $30,000 worth of concrete around the outside. And I came down, I was going to put an addition onto it. And first they said it was okay, then I get a phone call the next day saying that, well, first I bought it as a commercial building, then they said that it was rezoned to R3, which the building I want to put up, the addition I want to put on, is still fine under R3. But it's an R3, now they say, non-conforming building. Well, I think I should have some say in what I can do with my own property, but evidently not. What could I go do from this point to get it done?
I guess, I'm not sure what's going on here, but you'll have to talk to over Public Works. He can work with you and try to get this figured out with you.
I mean, what does non-conforming mean? The building's been there for 98 years. It's been a commercial building. Why all of a sudden can't I do nothing with it?
I don't know the particulars, and this is a commentary period, so you get the chance to speak. We're not going to take any action or discussion on it, so.
So who do I talk to?
Go see Joe.
Yep, invite you to come down to my office and we can talk through it.
Okay,
All right?
thank you.
You bet. Anybody else wish to address council? Okay. Entertain a motion for city council recess, Citizens Board of Adjustment.
So moved.
Motion by Mrs. Charks, second by Mr. Barrington. Further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to set the date for Board of Adjustment hearing 8/7/23. Latrice Franklin has applied for conditional use permit to operate a family residential daycare located at 1522 Pebble Beach Road, legally described as Lot 27, Block 4, Lakeview First Edition, City of Mitchell, Davis County, South Dakota. Real property is zoned R2, single family.
Set the date.
Motion by Mrs. Charks. Second by Mr. Sabers. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to set the date for Board of Adjustment hearing 8/7/23. Bobby Spurlick has applied for conditional use permit to operate a family residential daycare located at 2040 West 23rd Avenue, legally described as east 100 feet of Lot B of the south quarter of Section 8, Township 103 North, Range 60 west of the 5th Prime Meridian, Davis County, South Dakota. Said property is zoned R4 high-density residential.
Set the date.
Motion by Mr. McCardle,
Second.
second by Mr. Goldhammer. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this one? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to set the date for Board of Adjustment hearing 8/7/23. CJG Properties LLC has applied for variance permit for an accessory building in the front yard and front yard setback of 6 feet versus 25 feet located at 1821 West 8. Legally described as lots 5 and 6, Block 3, Home Park Original Edition, Davidson County, South Dakota. Said property zone R4 high density. Motion by Mr. Sabers. Second by Mr. Smith. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Entertain a motion, Board of Adjustment to adjourn City Council reconvene regular session.
So moved.
Motion by Mrs. Church. Second by Mr. Goldhammer. Further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Hearing and action on the application of the VFW Post 2750 for a special event liquor license located at Horseman Sports Arena for August 11/12, 2023 for the Shootout by the Lake.
Mayor and Council Chief Coster with the Police Department. We have no concerns of this application and recommend approval.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Sabers, second by Mr. McCardle. Discussion?
I see Dr. Christensen's out here. Do you want to say a couple words?
Thank you. Doc Marty here from VFW. So we applied for a liquor license, so we'd be selling liquor and also malt beverages, and just to support the event that's going on. I think everybody wants the rodeo, and our bartenders are going to be supporting this and making this successful. So I just appreciate your support. The funds that we raise this will go to improve our bathroom project we did, so that's where our profit's going to go to. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you, Marty, can you tell us just a little about what exactly, is it going to be an actual rodeo then that night?
I assume it is, yeah. So they're going to have like horses and barrel riding and so forth.
Just doing the alcohol.
Yeah, we just wondered why it was called the Shootout by the Lake. Is there shooting going on?
No, I don't think so.
No shooting. No shooting.
No shooting, no.
Okay.
Mr. Tobin, you want to explain that?
Well, like buck and shoots.
Shoot out the buck.
Oh, they're coming out of the.
There you go. Yeah, this could be it's going to be the real thing. So yeah.
The shoots.
Yeah, there you go.
Got it.
Nobody's gonna be shooting anybody.
You a participant, Doc?
No, I don't think so, not yet. I have to train up for that one. I got some skills in the past, so. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Doc. Anybody else wish to address this? Mr. Tobin, you want to speak to it again, or are you good?
No, I'm good, yeah, as long as Mr. Bapke stays quiet there.
All right. Okay, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to award the bid for Firesteel Creek Ducks Unlimited Kelly Wetlands Project 2023-26. Mr. Schrader.
Yep, Mr. Mayor, Council, bids were open on July 10th at the Office of Ducks Unlimited in Grand Island, Nebraska at 3 p.m. We received 10 bids, the low bid being from Whiskey Board Construction, LLC, for $583,997. The bid tabulation is attached for your information. Casey Campbell, who's a professional engineer with Ducks Unlimited, has reviewed the bids and verified that the low bidder is a responsive and responsible bidder. Project is under budget, and staff recommends awarding the project to the above-mentioned contractor at the above-mentioned price, contingent on DA&R approval. The contractor does plan to start roughly a year from now in 2024, with completion in November of 2024. With this, I did improve a quick update on our NACA grant. We have spent $174,000 of the $1 million. 3 projects have been completed, which protect 480 acres of wetlands and create 29 new acres of wetlands. have restored 25 acres of grassland habitat. Steve Donovan has been working with us to reach out to potential candidates for this project. There's currently 34 property owners considering or developing projects with him at this time. With that, I can answer any questions you may have.
Joe, what happens to the extra money then, since we accept this, obviously, this bid, then what happens with the other grant money?
So this is used with our non-point source dollars, and we'll just turn around and use it for additional projects in our watershed.
It'll continue to go towards the watershed projects.
Is there a certain period of time for that money?
Nope.
Okay.
This is all part of our non-point source we get from the SRF loans we take. So, no, we have some time to use all those.
I was curious if part of the reason we had a lower bid was because they're waiting till next year to start?
Yep, that's part of it. And I think that's why we got so much interest.
Okay, anything else? Entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve.
Motion by Mrs. Charks.
Second.
Second by Mr. Bathke. Further discussion?
Just like to say, wow, what a good bid.
Yes, sir.
I mean, I see this in my business a little bit. I think things are coming down. You know,
We hope so.
so, I mean, that's 35% under the engineer's estimate. I think waiting on the lake may pay off. I hope.
Okay, anything else? Anybody else want to address it? Okay.
Sorry, that's a good one. My name's Jordan Hansen. I talked to a lot of those biologists, and they said there's something out there called the 319L grant. I'm not sure if you guys know this, but the
We've already
government.
used those.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. They said they'll pay for almost all of these.
No, they won't, but
Well, they'll pay for a lot.
we've used them to the extent we're able to.
I love it.
Okay. Anybody else wish to address it? Okay, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Request to apply for funds for the South Dakota Attorney General's Drug Fund for drug detection dog and equipment. Mr. Coster, I'll let you all know that our drug dog passed away 2 weeks ago.
Roughly, yeah. Mayor and Council, Chief Coster with the Police Department. Mayor Everson is correct. Approximately 2 weeks ago, our drug dog unfortunately had a fatal illness, very short term. Unexpected, of course, obviously, which is what brings us here tonight. Mitchell's had a canine drug detection team. I had applied for the grant through the drug fund back in 2014, and we were awarded the funds for that, which started that program. And we would say that that was a successful endeavor for the city of Mitchell, the surrounding communities. We had intended on applying for funds for a replacement dog for next year's budget, but unfortunately, our timetable is a bit accelerated. What you have in front of you tonight is somewhat a twofold document. We're initially asking for permission from the council to apply again to the state drug fund through the Attorney General's office to fund replacing that dog and equipment. We're kind of working against a very short timeline here due to just the circumstances that have presented themselves. The state does a dog camp, is what it's referred to, starting approximately September 1st, where they train the dogs and the handlers. It's a 240-hour minimum training for the handler and the dog, and we are very close to that period. The training is currently nearly full. To get ahead of that, we also still have to find a suitable dog. The source for those dogs, we would continue to look toward where we had purchased before. It is also the primary, if not single source, that the state of South Dakota, the Highway Patrol uses. Kassenberg out of Alabama. The kennel down there has dogs currently. We would have to get approval, get funding, and then, get with them to get the dog. Generally, the handlers will go down. They'll do a selection process with Kassenberg, with the dogs, to try and pair basically the demeanor of the dog, the demeanor of the handler. Just like any dog that, any of us would purchase, especially if, some of you have hunting dogs. Sometimes those dogs just don't mesh with the personality of the handlers, so that's why it's important to get that process done for a best fit. The second thing that we have on here in the last paragraph is if we wouldn't be awarded the funds through the drug fund, because the funding there is somewhat limited depending upon drug seizures, we would request that we would be allowed to use contingency funds to make the purchases that we need. And we are asking for up to $18,000 because there's some flux in there as to what the dog is as far as cost. The training, if we're sending a handler, there's some additional fees there. And so basically this is kind of a two-part thing. And again, we're kind of working against the clock as far as if we get approved, first we have to apply to the Attorney General. That has to go all the way through their system and back. And then, if that fails, to be able to continue this program for the city of Mitchell. If we weren't able to get it done, very soon, it is entirely likely that we would have to wait an entire year to put that team back on the streets. Our intent is to keep John Badker, our current handler, as the handler. John has had a very good, run with the dog, quite a bit of experience, so it wouldn't be that we have to train a new handler. It's just that we have to get that team back together with the new dog. Our dog was reaching the end of its useful period prior to this unfortunate incident. So that's what we're asking for this evening. If you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer.
Can you tell us just a little bit about how the two work together? I mean, are they responsive or reactive or proactive or can you kind of tell us the day in the life of a drug dog?
Well, I guess the day in the life of a drug dog is like the day in the life of a police officer. I mean, there are no two alike. Obviously, their main focus is drug interdiction. Mostly that can start off with just a traffic stop like any other officer would, and they're looking for indicators of activity that may, indicate drug use. Sometimes it's as simple as, drugs laying openly in the vehicles. That is not unlikely, that we find that occasionally as well. Although South Dakota has legalized medicinal marijuana, recreational marijuana is not legal in the state of South Dakota. So that is, still something that we do work with and we do see. But by far what we're seeing is methamphetamine, opioids. Dog has been utilized in searches from time to time. We have our James Valley Drug Task Force, which is a multi-county task force, which you've approved the agreements to in the past. That dog works with our surrounding counties through that to help with interdiction for those agencies, because we know that Mitchell isn't an island. We have, a lot of stuff that goes through Mitchell that comes back and forth from those adjoining counties. So some of it is proactive, some of it is reactive.
I'll make a motion to approve with the drug problems we have going on. I think we need something like that.
Motion by Mr. McCardle.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Charks. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this?
I guess I had a question.
Go ahead.
Do you think one dog is enough for the city of Mitchell? As McCardle kind of alluded to, I feel like there's an increased amount of awareness to the drug use and drug problems of Mitchell. And so is one dog enough for the city, or should we look to getting a second? Would that help, I guess?
It would help, and that's always been in our plan, but, with budgetary constraints being what they were, ideally when, I had applied for the grant for this dog in 2014, my initial hopes and wishes were to get that dog about halfway through its service life and then apply for a second one, so you kind of have a rolling set of team there where you have an experienced dog and a newer dog, and that we would be able to utilize two. I'm sure you all see the newspaper, you all see what the court dispositions are on drugs and the amount of drugs that go through our community, as small as we are. I would dare hazard a guess, just anecdotally, to say that a vast majority of the crimes in Mitchell are either directly related to drugs or somehow drug tied. There is that nexus, even if it's thefts. A lot of times, that's someone who's under the influence or someone that's looking for drugs that they will sell what they steal to try and get those drugs. That problem is not going away nationally. It's only going to continue to get worse. So to answer your question, Mr. Goldhammer, yes, I would, very much think that we could utilize two teams.
Okay. Anything Anything else? All right, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Excuse me, action to approve Main Street parking space closure for Crazy Days, July 21st through 23rd, 2023.
Yep. Mr. Mayor, Council, this request is a repeat from the last couple of years. Geierman's Clothing Company is requesting 2 parking spaces be closed directly in front of their business, along with Bonnie's Decor for 5 parking spaces. The dates are July 21st through the 23rd for Crazy Days. Request was made by Mrs. Luzak with Mitchell Main Street and Beyond on behalf of the businesses, and it's worked well in the past, so staff recommends approval.
Motion approved.
Motion by Mr. Sabers. Second by Mr. Barrington. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to approve Agreement A 2023-26 and Resolution R 2023-55 West End Bridge Preservation Grant Big Project 2023-23 with SDDOT. Go ahead, Mr. Chair.
Yep, Mr. Mayor, Council, this is for a big grant on the West End Bridge. This is accepting the agreement and allowing the mayor to sign all paperwork. This is for a chip seal across the bridge deck along with some miscellaneous improvements. Costs are outlined in the staff report. The city is responsible for 20% or $63,451, and staff does recommend approval.
We've been pretty fortunate with these big grants. Do all the communities get this many? I mean, I feel like we're really lucky. What is this, our 4th?
We are very fortunate that, yes, we have been very successful, and we've been able to keep our bridges up to date and in good shape.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'll move approval.
Okay, motion by Mrs. Church. Second by Mr. McCardle. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to approve Agreement A 2023-25 Mitchell Regional Ambulance Standby Agreement. Chief Polarize.
Mayor and Council, for us doing ambulance standbys is nothing new, but to have a contract with a set hourly rate is something that's new. We feel that it's fair that when we do ambulance standbys, that everybody would pay the same. And they would pay per hour, and anything over that first hour would be at quarter-hour increments. And all it's doing is following our overtime. So what happens when we do an ambulance standby for somebody's event, we have to call in off-duty personnel, and we have to pay them overtime. We're paying retirement, we're paying shares of taxes, and all we're trying to do is basically recoup the money that we are spending for somebody else's event, is all this agreement really is. It's not patient care or anything like that. If we had a patient, then that would go towards the patient. This is simply an agreement with a price to have an ambulance there for the convenience of it.
Be something like having it at the rodeo or something. Where you gotta-
Correct, yeah, rodeo, certain football games, we go out of town to football games because areas don't have their own ambulance service, and we cover those towns. It's that kind of stuff, yep.
When Marty has his 4th of July celebration, they need to have an ambulance on standby. He'll get charged now.
That's nice. He was fine.
Didn't mean to pick on you, Mr. Barrington.
I'll move to approve.
Second. Motion by Mr. McCardle, second by Mr. Barrington. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to approve Resolution R 2023-52, an amendment to the 2023 compensation plan for the city of Mitchell. Ms. Elway?
Mayor and council, included in the packet is the resolution. It's also up on the board. The resolution would amend the approved 2023 compensation plan. We recently had a retirement in our wastewater treatment supervisor, so we would be eliminating that position and creating a wastewater pretreatment assistant that would also be the same as the utility operators as well. So they do both of those jobs, part-time pretreatment assistant and also help with the utility worker duties. We would also then just rename or relabel the wastewater collection supervisor to just be the wastewater supervisor. If anyone's not familiar with the organizational chart, I did have both the proposed as well as the current and the citywide org chart in the online packet. We currently have, this is Public Works Department, and we have our utility division. Our utility division director or superintendent would be John Vermillion. And after the vacancy became open, he and Joe Schrader, the Public Works Director, discussed what is the most efficient use of staffing in the division, and this was the result of those discussions. It will not be a negative impact to the budget because the wastewater pretreatment assistant is on a lower wage grade than the supervisor was. We did send all of these changes through our compensation classification review that we're in the middle of doing as part of our negotiations with our 3 labor unions, and they gave us the recommendation of where those placements should occur. I can answer any other questions that you have. The pretreatment assistant would be able to go up grades just like the utility worker as they obtain additional certifications. I can answer any questions that you have. I was asked a question over the weekend about staffing levels and adequacy within the division. Some of you may be aware in the past we had eliminated some positions in the utility department. We do feel it's still necessary to keep the staffing level at the level that we're at now. We're currently meeting needs. This just allows us to do that work a little more efficiently. And I can answer any questions that you may have. Just so everybody knows too, I should probably say this. We each year have the council set a resolution that lists each of the positions, what the wages are. And so if we're going to hire outside of that original resolution, we bring it back for an amendment. Once it's amended, then they can proceed with advertising the position.
Do you anticipate all of these, the changes being all filled within, are there people?
It's only
kind of in
one
place?
change,
Yeah.
that we have not filled the wastewater treatment supervisor. That's been vacant since the employee retired, so we would just advertise the wastewater pretreatment assistant position. The other person isn't changing out of their job, it's just the title change. So we would be hiring one employee to fill the one employee who vacated due to retirement, just in a different role.
Move to approve.
Excuse me, motion by Mr. Smith. Second by Mr. Barrington. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Second reading on ordinance O 2023-05, amending South Point Village Plan Development District. Mr. Jenigan.
Mr. Mayor and Council, as you recall, Planning Commission recommended approval of this, 5-0 with 2 absent. This is changing the PUD out west of Menards there. The change on this would be from multifamily dwellings for permitted of 24 units or less to just multifamily dwellings. Usually there's a conditional use that has the over the 24 limit, one's under the 24 limit. There's a contractor that in that area would like to do multifamily housing. Phase 1 is 35 units apartment building. There are some already non-conforming places out there because they were going by building instead of by the total lot for over 24 units or less, or excuse me, under. So this would help clean up that as well. I did not receive any letters since the last meeting. There was one in favor of it and one that just stated, we are Menards, you know we're out here. So if anybody moves in, you know that we are already there. So, and the contractor that's going to be doing it understands that. So I can answer any questions that you have.
No questions?
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Goldhammer. Second by Mr. Savers. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address it? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion by Mr. Smith. Second by Mr. McCardle. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address the adoption? Roll call.
Smith.
Aye.
Charts. Aye. Bathke.
Aye.
Barrington.
Aye.
McCardle.
Aye.
Dosher. Goldammer.
Aye.
Sabers.
Aye.
Motion carries. Entertain a motion to move into executive session in accordance with South Dakota Codified Law 125-2, personnel, 3 legal, and 4 negotiations. Motion by Mrs. Charks,
Second.
second by Mr. Goldhammer. Discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. No action will be taken after executive session.